Well, the forecast has been changing a lot, but now it's looking like 2 winter storms are coming soon, with the first one bringing snow to parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and the Northeast, as far south as New York City. Certainly possible. That's coming up as we head our way towards this upcoming weekend. And then the second system looks like it'll come around, say, January 8th and onward, with big snow on the northern end and maybe some severe weather on the southern end. In this no-nonsense video, I've got the details on the latest models for both systems with new info and data on that big storm and the cold air mass in the January 8th through 14th timeframe as well. Subscribe if you enjoy. Here we go. Let's look at future radar with your European model as we make our way into the rest of our New Year's time frame. So here we go, New Year's Eve, we got the ball drop in New York City tonight going into our Monday morning. We will have a little bit of light flurries going around just northwest of New York City with that Clipper system, but that pushes out. We've got high pressure, and that is going to be taking control of the eastern, in fact, pretty much the entire country under high pressure as we make our way through the early to mid part of this week. We will see that get broken a little bit with some rainfall, some showers and thunderstorms in southwest Texas, parts of Louisiana into our Wednesday morning. And we'll also have some rain and mountain snow impacting parts of the west, especially the Sierra Nevada. That system in the west will eventually track on over into the plains, bringing that potential system that could bring impacts to parts of the northeast by this upcoming weekend. Notice the rainfall moving through the Gulf Coast. That'll pretty much be the extent of that system as it heads offshore. Could we see some light flurries on the northern end of the system into parts of the I-95 corridor? Sure. No accumulation really expected as I see it right now. But this is the beginning of this new system that's going to take us all the way towards our January 7th and 8th. We've got a little bit of some snowfall that could fall into parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, as well as Missouri. The southern end bringing some showers, maybe even some stronger thunderstorms here into parts of Louisiana and southern Arkansas. This is as we make our way Friday the 5th into our Saturday the 6th of January. Look at how snowfall begins breaking out. This is just one model, the Euro, over parts of Appalachia as well as parts of southern Illinois and Indiana, while rainfall and storms continue, especially in parts of the panhandle of Florida and South Georgia. Would watch some of those storms for the potential of some gustier winds, maybe even a lower to moderate end tornado threat, depending on how strong this system turns out to be. Look at how this system, as it continues progressing northeast, is able to phase a little bit with a piece of some snowfall energy moving through parts of the north central United States. That creates some snowfall here over parts of Indiana, Ohio. This moves into Pennsylvania as well as New York as we go Saturday the 6th into the nighttime of our Sunday early morning, which is January 7th. We've got that dividing line right around New York City. So could we break the snowfall drought there? Certainly could, and it looks like we might eventually see changeover if it doesn't initially start out as snow there. But it looks like this whole area I just circled is in for a pretty big snow event, with models actually just recently coming into sudden consensus that could occur. So regional timing with the Euro model, maybe some sleet into parts of Nashville out ahead of this system into our Saturday morning. Again, this is January 6th. Snowfall into parts of Missouri during that morning time frame. But as we make our way into that Saturday afternoon, we get heavier snow into parts of southern Illinois and Indiana with those purple colors indicating some sleet kind of mixing in along the dividing line. Hopefully no ice, though, in the way of freezing rain. And then look at how the system just continues to kind of intensify as it moves northeast. Some snow, that brighter pink shade that you see there in central Ohio, that's actually some heavy snow, okay? So once we get the snow heavy enough on this type of model, it looks to turn into that pink color. And that is some heavy snow. So notice how that trends into parts of southern PA, maybe Philly on that sleet line here into our early Sunday morning. New York City also along that line. But this is the first real snow chance we've had in New York City in quite a while. The snow drought dates back quite a while there in the New York City, the Central Park area, and we've right along that sleet line into that Sunday morning time frame. And again, this is just very early. Trust these models with a grain of salt right now, but the GFS is on board, and I'll show you the GFS in just a second. Notice how that snowfall pretty much as this low makes its way up the Maine coastline. We've got that wraparound snowfall impacting parts of Boston, parts of Maine as well. Now let's get into the regional timing of that system with the GFS. Again, you notice a very similar setup. By Saturday, maybe a little bit later in the day it takes for the system to get going over parts of Missouri and Illinois. Very similar setup, though. Maybe rain a little bit further north into parts of southern Indiana, southern Ohio. And notice how some of that snowfall is actually pushed further north. So maybe parts of Chicago, parts of Indianapolis, parts of northern Ohio into the Cleveland region. All these areas getting in on some heavier snowfall out of this system. And then we continue to see this system turned off towards the northeast And look, totals could add up quite quickly here in parts of southeastern PA as well with this. This system kind of, instead of moving southwest to northeast, we see the snowfall really begin to kind of trend instead of going on up. And the way I just pointed that arrow towards parts of Vermont and New Hampshire, look at how this moves through the New York City area, bringing some quite considerable accumulation and some wind potentially. And then this begins kind of heading offshore directly to the east and missing areas to the north. So it's kind of questionable where the snowfall would actually play out with this system. We're still a week out. I was talking about in the last couple of videos, I didn't want people to hype up these big systems that are on the way. And really, this system just kind of popped up out of the blue. It's just a couple days earlier than when I expected activity to ramp on up. But the track of this low pressure system is really going to determine how much snow ends up falling. Now, with your system snowfall, this is the GFS, and then we'll look at the Euro in a second. Heavier snowfall with the GFS is going to be over parts of Indiana, into parts of Ohio, as well as Pennsylvania, into parts of eastern West Virginia. The Euro goes a little bit more tame with this system, okay? Parts of southeast Indiana, northern Ohio getting in on some snowfall as well. But again, the heaviest snow is going to be falling over central Ohio at times out of this as it moves through the Ohio Valley with the Euro. And then look at how the totals add on up into parts of Pennsylvania, southern New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Boston area. A foot plus of snowfall is not out of the question if where this system sets up, okay? It's not exactly certain where this will set up, and back into Appalachia, we could see some 2-foot totals there in southeastern West Virginia. And then looking at the Euro model snowfall totals there into the northeast, notice how, again, that track of that low pressure system, which kind of brings it there up the coastline instead of off the coastline, that would bring some of the heavier snowfall into parts of New England, but still some accumulation, but just not as much right there into parts of Central Park. In fact, right on the edge of an inch or two of snow. So we'll really have to monitor that closely. We're early on. Don't, again, trust this with a grain of salt as that system moves through. And then eventually down the line, it looks like we'll shift our attention to this system, which could bring some snowfall into parts of the Rockies. It will be quite heavy. We'll see foot-plus accumulations of snowfall over the next week or two into parts of the Mountain West in the higher elevations. That snowfall translates into the plains again here, but this one looks like it's more of a plains and Midwest kind of snowstorm overall, especially initially here. This is again in that January 8th to 9th time frame, which is when I originally expected conditions to be favorable for a system like this. Notice some severe weather into parts of Arkansas, western Louisiana, eastern Texas as well. Could we get some stronger storms out of that? Certainly possible, but again, this is just early indications from a model. This is not a guarantee. It does look like those ISO bars get tightly packed together. Those are the black lines on the screen indicating very gusty winds and a very strong storm system. Rain and storms in the southeast and the Carolinas. We've got snowfall coming down hard with gusty winds into parts of Illinois, the entirety of Indiana, into Michigan as well. As that pushes on off towards the northeast, some very hefty totals possible. This is your 24-hour snowfall averages of a bunch of Euro model solutions here, also known as the EPS ensembles, into our Tuesday, January 9th in the morning, looking like we could pick up a quick inch to 3 inches of snowfall by that point over parts of Kansas just in a 24-hour period. Notice how the overall consensus of that snowfall continues progressing this, and especially the heaviest snowfall there exiting Nebraska and Kansas, moving on up into the Midwest, with also a secondary zone as maybe a second low pressure system could help this out, and right up the northeast coast as well. So again, lots of details to pinpoint still with not only the first one, but especially the second system, which actually, believe it or not, the second system has been on the models for longer. Could certainly bring more heavy snowfall to some of the same zones that pick up a lot out of this first one, though. So keep a very close watch on that. Your temperature anomalies with this second system, which again could bring down much cooler air. I talked about the NAO, which is North Atlantic Oscillation. In the last video, it's turning negative. That overall means cooler air will be spilling over the country and heading eastward. And of course, it often takes a big system to make that happen. Here comes that big system with a major cool down as we head towards, say, January 10th. Low pressure setting up over Illinois and Indiana. Cooler spilling on in behind this. And again, just don't get your hopes up, okay? I get excited about snow events myself. I don't want you to get too excited and then not get anything. So let's look at the data, the averages, of the snow, and that's why I showed you all the different various totals earlier and told you they could still change. Just like this could still change, but it does look like cooler than average air will begin to really just take over the entirety of the country and maybe last all the way from January 10th onward into mid-January. But let's kind of recap what we've talked about in this video. Big snowstorm now looking possible all of a sudden out of the models, January 6th through 9th, especially into that 7th time frame. frame and into the 8th into parts of the northeast, southern New England. Heavy snow possible into parts of the Ohio Valley and northeast, with even parts of the I-95 corridor seeing decent totals. This is a possibility. Could New York City break the snow drought? Yes. Still up in the air. But again, don't go down in the comments section telling me that, this is nonsense and that it's not going to happen. It is, still a 50-50 up in the air shot that it happens, and I'm well aware of that. And then in with the overall summary part of that second system, the cool and warm air will meet and form that secondary feisty system sometime around January 8th over the central U.S., so kind of tailing just a few days behind this other one, and bringing heavy snowfall to the northern tier of the U.S. Again, quite uncertain exactly where the heaviest will fall, but it does look like that first system bringing heavier snow to the northeast, this one bringing it into parts of the Midwest and towards the Great Lakes. If you enjoy my analysis, please hit subscribe for accurate, easy to understand, and passionate forecasting. That's it. Hope you have a happy new year, everyone. Be back soon.